Sure, we might be here to talk about the teams that didn't come close to making the playoffs, but they can enjoy something on their long off seasons of discontent. The big game. The prime apex of the football season. Hopefully. Know what'll make it better? Underdog, the partner of this video. Fans may be screaming about the refs, but with Pick'em it's all about your intuition. Take a handful of specific stat lines for the players of your choosing. Then pick higher or lower. There are variables, multipliers, special picks, and so much more to keep you guessing. With Pick'em being available in over 30 states plus daily fantasy offerings, Underdog can't be beat. If that isn't enough, try a no-sweat token for size. You can either cash in on an entry for the game or get bonus credit back. And Super Sunday deserves a promo code of equal might. U-Tree. When you use it in the link below, get up to $1,000 in bonus cash in your first deposit plus a special pick in the lobby. The season's almost over, but don't be sad. Go out with style on Underdog. But always remember to play responsibly. The teams that follow didn't. Is this what it was all for? The flash and hype surrounding them revealed to be smoke and mirrors. Miami season cut down like their edge rushers. To call the Dolphins paper kittens is a compliment to them. The reality is their whole operation's built on quicksand. I already know their game plan. Miami's gonna solely blame this year's failure on the 2 injuries and call it a day. Was that really it, though? That's a symptom of far greater issues ailing the franchise. If Tua's concussion was the culprit, why were they still losing after he came back? Why do the Dolphins shit the bed whenever they play a team over 500? Why can't they play below 40 degrees Fahrenheit? Why does Tyreek want out of this mediocre shit pile? Okay, that one might just be a temper tantrum, but what the hell are they not making changes? You can justify McDaniel, but why is Greer surviving? For his terrible lines and soft team construction? So he can trade Tyreek for some belly button lint? The Dolphins need to ask themselves some serious questions, yet they'll never do so. And that's why they're doomed to repeat the same cycle for years on end. Rebuilds. What a fun thing to endure. Patriots fans haven't had to deal with one of these in decades. It's obvious that the organization's trying to figure it out too. They pretty much have nothing. One of the worst collections of skill position personnel in the league. Quite possibly the worst offensive line in a damn age. As they cry out for Scarnecchia, the entirety of the defense is taken down by waves of injury or suspension. I'm dead serious, all they have are Christian Gonzalez and Drake May. Hey, Drake looks like he has some promise. I'll get him some fucking help. If he keeps taking hits like he did in 2024, he might not survive. The year just felt clueless. Gerard Mayo was supposed to be the handpicked successor to Belichick. All they got was a guy so raw and unprepared he gave everyone in the organization food poisoning. Of course he got fired. The dude sucked. Robert Kraft feels regret and remorse. For about 5 minutes. Mike Vrabel's coming home and whipping his balls out on the table. Josh McDaniels is back for the 3rd time. Who the hell needs a tank bull when the boys club reigns supreme? If they actually get aid from May is to be determined. Revenge for the lost 2023 campaign, eh? All they needed was league average quarterback play, we said. Well, their wish was granted on a monkey's paw. Sparingly. And it only resulted in the butt-fumbliest butt fumble that can be butt fumbled. I know the Jets and disaster seasons are commonplace, but this year crashed into the ground like it was the second coming of Shanksville. A year of what not to do in every facet of the organization. After struggling out the gate, they solely blamed Robert Saleh for it. It merely resulted in their elite defense imploding on itself. Brought in Devontae as a desperation move. Chemistry didn't come until it was well too late. And Aaron Rodgers? He's pretty much done. Just go to Minnesota and complete the cycle. All they got in this era was a brick and a publicly executed GM who had long been defanged. A failure that requires a new voice to revive a team lost at sea. Aaron Glenn's coming home. Former Jet hoping to Jet start yet another restart in an age full of them. You're gonna need it to try and entice Garrett Wilson to deal with the constant dysfunction. If Roy wants out, he'd just request his Madden rating to be dropped to a 75. That'll easily get Woody to cast him off to another team. Joe Burrow is becoming the modern Dan Marino before our very eyes. If only he wasn't on a team with 5 real players, he'd have a legit chance in Lombardi. Yet that's too hard for the Bungles to understand. They have a terrible case of tunnel vision. Years of trying to put Burrow in a cocoon. Years of trying to build an offensive line with mixed results. And in the process, they completely neglected the defensive side of the ball. Kind of hard to do much of anything when the infrastructure on that end's corroding at the foundations. The only thing with a dam on that end was Trey Hendrickson. He's still a beast, but the problem is you need 11 guys performing. That certainly didn't happen. They were getting buried by every opponent under the sun. Burrow and Chase were performing at a generational pace, and Cincy still didn't make the playoffs. How many games did Joe lead them to over 30 points this year only to lose? These guys gave up over 40 points and 500 yards to the fucking Steelers, for God's sake. They're stuck in the offensive Stone Age and they did that? Lou Anarumo was given a one-way ticket out of the city, but he's a scapegoat. This failure lies squarely at the foot of the cheap-ass ownership that's held them back for decades. T's more than gone this offseason, and they're having trouble finding common ground with Jamar. Zach Taylor will still exist, however. But they'll finally do something to fix the defense, yet somehow neglect something else. It's the Bengal way. Have all the flash, but lose to the damn Patriots in Week 1 to cost them in the end. America's emphasis on revitalizing its industrial sector has bore incredible fruit. Politicians have yearned to bring jobs back to the Rust Belt for time eternal, but they got one better. The factory of sadness is reopened and is running at full production. Oh, what a glorious sight for the rest of the football world. Misery incarnate as everything that can go wrong does. And it all points towards the adult in the room. Sean's unable to throw a football anymore, and Baker Mayfield makes them eat shit at every turn, but at least he's doing it with maturity. Tried to cater and run the offense through Watson, and all they did was run their season off a cliff. It's damning when every yokel in the stands is justified. They eventually put in Jameis, and the offense was not only significantly better, but got more entertaining to watch. At least until they tried to make DTR a thing. I dare say the highlight of the season was Deshaun tearing his Achilles. It was that bad. The rest of the team got injured along with him. This is simply reaping what they've sown. Jimmy Haslam wanted to meddle, he gets the second coming of the Herschel Walker trade. Now the Browns might be forced back to square one yet again. Myles Garrett's tired of having this albatross hung around his neck. He wants out of this shit heap ASAP. As for the massive albatross the Browns are stuck with, Cleveland can rejoice on the inside. He tore it again.
It is even funnier the second time.
I think they're a garbage team. Their fans think they should have rebuilt years ago. Next to no one takes them seriously as a franchise. Everyone can see the writing on the wall, except the ones running the damn show. Fancying themselves as a playoff contender yet failing to execute even the basics of running a football team. Here's a hint. If your team defense is supposed to be a strength, that unit wouldn't be getting gashed to bits in nearly every game. Gus Bradley's unit was completely useless, especially against the dreaded True Luck-led New York Giants. He'd be rightfully canned, but it's far too late to do anything. Overrating themselves in every category. And the results are what you see here, despite one of the easiest schedules in football. But the real cause for their demise was ironically their QB situation. They put all their chips in a glorified fullback who can only throw 60-yard passes and has a style play leading to frequent injury. And allegedly he's got maturity issues too. He was tired, so he got benched for the elite Joe Flacco, who is even worse in a critical stretch. The result is standard Colts shit. Most GMs get fired after only making the playoffs once in 8 years. Chris Ballard's the exception. Shane Steichen might not have control of the locker room, but you can justify keeping him. Jim Irsay can't fire the guy compared to Michael Jordan, though. That'd be sacrilege. All they need is for AR5 to learn how to throw a football, the defense to revitalize under Lou Anarumo, get receivers that can catch, have an elite draft. The best team assembled in Jags history, eh, Shad? The men you put in charge reviving the team after a total collapse? You'd be wrong. It would be shoved in our faces like Press Taylor's pathetic excuse of a red zone offense. Like Trevor Lawrence, a franchise in eternal stagnation. Every chance at hope quashed by flawed roster design and clueless ownership. Right? Brian Thomas Jr. looks really fucking good. What else is there? Once T-Law went down, nobody cared for them. The hype is non-existent as their past defense was. The forgotten lolcow becomes forgotten once again. Doug Peterson was festering in the corner. It was time to throw him in the trash. So why the hell is Trent Baalke still here? How does that fucker survive being so inept? His presence is harming the Jags in real time. Ben Johnson and Liam Cohen want nothing to do with that snake. Oh, now you fire Baalke. Now you fire him! Only after you botch 2 coaching candidates and have to settle for... Wait, they still got Liam Cohen? He may have pissed off the Bucs to no end, but that dude should be getting a statue outside of Trevor Banks Stadium for his service to Jacksonville. Go ahead, man. Let's hear your war cry.
Duval.
Oh, God. Before the year, there were scores of Titans fans clamoring that we were sleeping on them. The Titans would awaken as their mythological namesake and have us tremble in fear. Turns out fate itself was the equivalent of the Greek gods. We'll keep sleeping in peace. It's kind of hard to emerge when nearly every offseason move blew up in their face. Jerry Snead spent more time on IR than he did playing. Same goes for Cushenberry and Quandre Diggs. And Duke Hopkins got shipped west to Kansas City in the process. Hell, that whole defense imploded, but what the Titans were strong at? The memes. Will Levis may be terrible at playing QB, but his memes per 60 are among some of the greatest in NFL history. A year of legend that will live on forever in our hearts. Unlike Grant Carthon, the man survived one power struggle but couldn't survive another to the consolidating might of Chad Brinker. Tennessee's Peter Baelish needs a puppet to do his bidding, so Brian Callahan survives despite offering nothing of value as a head coach. Mike Borgonzi will probably be sacrificed for team failure in a few seasons. Winning the Tank Bowl does have its benefits despite aiming for the playoffs. They seek a generational talent that will rally them to glory. Why does Tennessee need that? They already have Will Levis and his memes. Al Davis would be having unbelievable conniptions if he were still alive to see this. The Raiders have become the worst-case scenario in his eyes. A placeholder. A team that's lost its unique edge and snarl in favor of a toothless lump of mud. If you were to look at that pathetic excuse of an offense under Gardner Minshew and Zamir White, you'd understand. It was a mess resulting in opposing defenses generating endless fantasy points. Devontae Adams got sold a false bag of goods coming here and forced his way out to another shithole. At this rate, the Autumn Wind's gonna be requesting a trade. Were they injured to hell this year? Definitely, but the Raiders are a 7 or 8 win team when they're at peak health. It's a failing proposition regardless. Antonio Pierce's only strength was maintaining a locker room. Freddie Kitchens with vibes couldn't do much of anything else, so out he goes. What happens with Max Crosby from this point forward is anyone's guess. Tom Brady's gonna put his stamp on the team. Just not with Ben Johnson. It'll be with a GM with the last name of Spytek. The irony's so delicious it made Pete Carroll 20 years younger by proxy. Wait, Pete Carroll's here now? Chip Kelly's the new OC? Okay. Cowboys really are America's team. Fans across the country are actively relishing in their hilariously self-inflicted demise. Jerry Boy's got a fetish. All in their ass. Everything going against them in the best comedy of the season. Every time they pivoted to Jerry in his press box, he'd squirm while the rest of us laughed at him. In the meantime, all his stars would get injured. It's all Jones' fault and we know it. The running game was atrocious until Rico Dowdle emerged. You allegedly couldn't afford Derrick Henry, but are paying $5 million guaranteed to Trey Lance of all people. He's developed as well as bacteria at absolute zero. You played chicken with Dak and CD, yet neglected wide receiver 2, the interior D-line, and secondary depth. Remember, he's the best GM the Cowboys could have in his own mind. It truly showed in this train wreck of a year. Now they not only have to fill the gaping holes throughout their roster, they'll need to replace Zach Martin's huge presence. As well as DeMar Villanova shown since the gods hate Jerry Jones. He does it to himself. Mike McCarthy was a dead man walking, but they rejected the Bears' request to interview him. Yet they let him go anyway? So lowballing him failed, who the hell are they getting? Brian Schottenheimer! You hired him! He's been terrible everywhere he's gone. He didn't call plays here. Oh, Jerry never fucking changed, my man. I love you so much. The further we stray from 2022, the more we realize that Saquon was the only thing making this team relevant. New York choosing to pay Danny Derps over Barkley will be seen as one of the biggest mistakes in recent franchise history, yet I argue that wasn't the major issue. It was letting go of Xavier McKinney and Julian Love. Would Saquon be doing what he did this year behind that god-awful offensive line? Tyrone Tracy was pretty good, yet he's a rarity in this offense. Instead, we get Evan Neal turning into a massive bust, Andrew Thomas taken out by injury, and a bunch of receivers that drop everything in sight. Malik Neighbors notwithstanding. Team defense was hit or miss, vanishing at moments like Brian Burns or straight up underwhelming like Kayvon Thibodeau. Endless failure to the end of an error. Daniel Jones is a victim of buyer's remorse. Let him get killed in the pocket 1,000 times, then kill him again for good measure. In the end, they've gone from a shitty team to a deliberately tanking one. As the Giants try to reset things yet again, Dable and Shane are staying put. Although with the stuff coming out about how they treated Nick McLeod, how the fuck would anyone sign here as long as Joe Shane's still involved? I smell some firings coming next fall.
Here comes the Hail Mary with the game on the line, and the ball is caught! Caught!
It's DeMercado breaking away! DeMercado goes the distance!
Williams, pressure coming late, and down he goes!
And he's blocked!
Williams buying all kinds of time. Where's he gonna go? Nowhere! No one touched him. Oh, this is disaster in the making here. You're gonna have to do something when it comes down to this play. Incomplete, and the game is over.
Goff on first down, firing downfield for Williams. He's got it! Jameson!
Virginia McCaskey finally croaked? I thought she was gonna live forever feeding on the souls of thousands of Bears fans a day. Chicago? You might be free. Ben Johnson might have slayed the demon by proxy. Now go and pursue the ultimate prize, making the McCaskies sell the team. Someone should just post a picture of me with a fell for it again, Wojak. You'd think I'd learn to accept the Falcons only exist for choking in every situation, but that's too on the nose for my intuition. Franchise equivalent of Kyle Pitts. He could be really good, but just underachieves. I figured the QB situation couldn't get worse than it did last year. That was before Coco revealed he was a shell of his former self. Flashes in the early game, but then his flaws were exposed. Like being unable to plan on his formerly injured leg, or not telegraphing every damn throw he makes. Being so bad that he was Lenny did an open field out of pity, while burning $100 million in the process. Michael Penix can learn a thing or two about generational back securing from him. Or perhaps not choking away a multi-game divisional lead with tiebreaker over Tampa Bay. The media's gonna call Terry Fontenot a genius for picking Penix after signing Cousins, but it was managerial malpractice. Could have used the Cousins' money for Hunter or Van Ginkel. Did you notice how non-existent their pass rush was for most of the year? No wonder why most offenses feasted on them for weeks on end. Jimmy Lake was a token sacrifice. Knowing the Falcons, they'll ignore pressing needs on defense for either Emike Egbuka or Tyler Warren. I hope to God I'm wrong, but they did draft Penix out of the blue. Sad as it may seem, Panthers fans have to be satisfied with how this season turned out. Look, when you're at absolute zero, even a blade of grass growing in a wasteland is cause for celebration. There was progress. Actual progress. Unbelievable. May I present Exhibit A, Bryce Young. His early showings? Oh boy, he was a mess. And I'm underselling the hell out of it. When he got benched, it felt like it was the end of his time in Carolina. Turns out all he needed was a factory reset. Once he got back, he returned to showing the confidence and poise he had at Alabama. From dead in the water to becoming the potential franchise future again. So we know the true solution to any QB struggles. If you tried unplugging him and plugging him back in, they might want to do the same with their defense. The league's worst by a country mile, especially against the run. Injuries to Derek Brown and Shaq Thompson early on exacerbate that. Yes, they suffered a metric shit ton of heartbreaking losses, but those would have been blowouts last year. Take this meager momentum in stride, my friends. A campaign without a David Tepper moment is a good one to experience. Do you remember the first 2 weeks of the season? Remember when people were crowning them as contenders because they beat up on a Mike Zimmer defense and the fucking Panthers? Reality smacked them across the face in short order. No matter the results, everyone must eventually pay the piper. The Saints have reached that point. Yet Mickey Loomis and company refuse to face this reality. They're just throwing shit at a wall hoping for another generational draft. Same script as in past years. Aging and injury-prone roster robbing them of their mid-tier potential, plus Dennis Allen. Why was Dennis still here? As a generic Madden-generated coach, of course he was awful as head honcho. So you have a team that has pretty much no future, is locked into said aging, injury-prone roster, and Loomis has diplomatic immunity. It's like Zion, except instead of food, the weakness is swallowing their pride. And they'll have to potentially do without Cam Jordan going forward. So, who's coaching this dying patient? Do you want to get fired in 3 years to play pretend with Mickey Loomis and a team on the brink of tanking? Bunch of candidates simply said, nah, we're good. Even Clint Kubiak's jumping ship since he sees the writing on the wall. Kellen Moore has the chance to do the most hilarious thing after the Super Bowl. New Orleans is a death sentence for a coaching career? I, for one, am shocked. Glorified enhancement talent of the NFL. Surprising when Arizona doesn't have a middling season. And despite attempts to change, the same results keep happening. The Cardinals' sin is one that keeps getting repeated. Late season collapses. Chance at the playoffs despite no expectations? Too much optimism for this group, time to implode again. It is improvement over the past few seasons, but there has to be an empty feeling after such a campaign. Slowly but surely, that grumbling in their stomach might be forcing them into an inconvenient truth. Is Kyler really the guy that'll take Arizona where they want to go? He has incredible talent, but he's a cock tease who randomly falls apart at the worst possible times. The inconsistency of him leads to the inconsistency of the franchise. A group eager to reassert themselves but trip on a rock when it matters. Maybe things change once Kyler finally gains chemistry with Maserati Marvin, but they can't just rely on Trey McBride for every single thing. They're making progress, but they need more. It's the only way they can break out of this curse. The tale of Icarus is one often repeated in sports. An eager team wants to soar higher and higher, but the sun does not care for ambition. The Niners' wax wings are melted off all the same. Or in their case, they'll tear every tendon in their legs. You want revenge for the Super Bowl, you say? The only thing granted is a repeat of 2020's lost season. Like Elections, train wrecks in San Francisco come every 4 years. This was supposed to be the golden chance. It was undone the moment the race started. Hard to win when there's a bear trap in front of you. Yet it gets even worse. San Fran's staring into the barrel of a loaded gun. A punishing year only leads to more punishment. They paid CMC this past offseason. He may never be the same player again. They paid Ayuk in August. Suffering major injury was the least of his worries. Brandon was invisible most of the time. Trent Williams seems to have a nagging ankle of his own that might shun his career. Charvarius Ward might leave due to elements out of the organization's control. Calling Debo Cooks generous and Javon Hargraves a cap casualty. By the way, Brock Purdy's going to be commanding $55 to $60 million a year. You're getting Robert Saleh back to man the defense, but this offseason's going to be a steep uphill battle. I don't think a simple good luck's going to do it justice. Greater men than Lynch and Shanahan have failed in this task. Can they survive? If I were to describe the Seahawks in one word, mid. Pure, unadulterated mid. Flashes and signs that things could be on the rise, but keep getting undone by a combination of factors. Mostly at their own hand. Oh no, you missed out on the playoffs because of a strength of schedule tiebreaker? Then don't lose to the fucking Giants. The defense had its moments, but struggled in the early game. But that was never the main concern. Their offense was just so damn erratic. From JSN carrying the team on his back and Geno rallying the troops to victory to the running game doing absolutely nothing and DK going ghost. The repeated impotence pointed to one man. Ryan Grubb. His college tricks were useless in the pros. He can go back there for all Seattle cares. Clint Kubiak showed promise with a healthy unit, so maybe he can finally mold them to glory. Yet even in these times, a sect of Seahawks fans want Geno gone. Yes, he has his flaws and is in his mid-30s. But who are you getting to replace him? There's no one available that's better. Smith isn't upper crust, but he is a serviceable starter. Did you see how bad Sam Howell was? You trust that? Unless you can somehow find another Russell Wilson out of your ass, the solution is to bolster and push on. They're doing enough as is. Just keep the focus and playoff contention will be in sight. Anything to avenge past mistakes.
Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal.